they're carrying this world of expectation that we as viewers don't see.
Last night he just did what he needed to do and he got it done.
Someone's got to break the chain, and last night Lando broke a chain.
This season was like a major test between these two philosophies of racing.
The idea of family, the idea of fairness. Being the world champion is crazy. Sport is crazy.
It happened. How are you feeling? You must be on top of the world. Tell me, what is it like? What is it like to be you right now?
The first thing I'm going to say about this is I've learnt my lesson. I should have learned it with Lewis in 2021. Don't wed yourself to a driver. You are almost guaranteed to be disappointed. I was chatting today. I was saying there's 20 drivers on the grid. If you pin all your hopes on one driver winning, and that's going to give you joy and pleasure and excitement and deep satisfaction, the chances are 1 in 20 that will happen. But this year it happened. I'm absolutely thrilled that Lando. I'm just thrilled for Lando. What an amazing hero story. The story of trial and tribulation, of facing your demons, of making it all this way, and driving your own race and driving your own year. And I think before we get into the race and what happened, I just thought it was really amazing hearing Lando in the press conference, sitting all on his own. I don't know why he was all on his own, but he was all on his own. And he just said, look, I did it my way. And it didn't feel arrogant. It just felt like he actually unpacked it. He said, look, I could have tried to be like Max. I could have tried to be really aggressive and really cutthroat, but that wouldn't have been me. I did it my way. I'm self-depreciating. I've had my struggles. I've listened too much to what the media have said, but I learned. I came through that. I learned, and I did it my way. I just raced as cleanly and as best as I could through the year. And I'm just so proud that I didn't have to try and imitate some of the aggressiveness, some of the cutthroatness of other drivers. And it's true, he didn't. He raced this year his way, and he fought his demons. He went through the proper meta-narrative of the human hero story, where he faced his demons and he came out on top. And it was beautiful to see. And yeah, I'm thrilled. But next year, I'm going to do a Jason. I'm going to be non-partisan. I'm just going to enjoy next year. I'm not going to wed myself to any drivers because it's too painful. That was the most painful race last night that I've ever watched, because I wanted Lando to win so badly that I just felt sick the whole way through. And oh my gosh, did he have to fight through some challenges? What did you make of it, Jase?
Well, I thought I'd just start by saying these glasses, contrary to how the sunglasses have gone in the last few races, are not indicative of tears for a fallen or for a downed champion. These are actually just because the race started at midnight last night. And so we were both up until silly o'clock in the morning watching this race unfold in front of us. So it's more about bags under the eyes than about tears for Piastri.
Love it. I love it. Any tears for Antonelli?
The less said, the better for Antonelli. He admitted it as much himself. He just said that was a pretty crap way to end the season, but we'll go and we'll move on from here. He finishes the season behind Hamilton, which is a bit of a miss.
Yeah.
And he also has half the points of his more established teammate. But it's a rookie season, and he finishes top of the rookies. So
it's a rookie season.
You can't really complain.
It's a rookie season. He's done so well. He should be so proud of himself, that kid. Honestly,
and to pull it back, and similarly to Norris, and in some ways Piastri as well, to be able to address the demons head on and to find a way forward in his own hero's journey. So that was cool. I mean, it was a bit of an anonymous race for him. I think he finished 15 or 16. It's not even worth a mention. So yeah, I guess Antonelli will come back next year. We shall see, Gav, if you'll stick to your assertion that you'll be non-partisan and you'll enjoy it. You can try the other strategy, which is to just flip flop from one driver to the next, and then you never really lose, and everyone's winning all the time. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I think I learned this, and this is total digression. So, dear listener, we will get back to doing what we said we'd do, which is talk about the race. I learnt this lesson when Ricciardo was at McLaren. That time was really hard. It was a difficult period to watch someone who I really admired and I wanted to see right back at the front.
Yeah.
And he just failed and failed. And each weekend there was a little glimmer of hope where he might do well in P1 and then in qualifying, but then totally drop it in the race, or someone would hit him. He just had bad luck and then bad performance combined. And so at the end of his tenure in F1, I think I made the conscious decision to sort of withdraw a little bit my emotional investment in these drivers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also remember not really being happy with how McLaren treated Ricciardo. But I think in hindsight, that's misplaced, because coming back to the race and the championship outcome, I think this season was a bit of a test of two wildly different philosophies of racing between Red Bull and McLaren. I think I put it to you as like the Rebel Alliance going up against the Galactic Empire. I'll put it this way. On the one hand, we've got the Empire, who treats drivers like light bulbs, especially second drivers. If they don't perform within 2 races, they're gone. They're going to put rookie drivers into the first seat untested or with very little testing. They're going to put them in, see how they go. If they don't match up, then they're out. Versus a team like McLaren, where they have nurtured young talent, a talent like Lando Norris. They saw his talent early on. They brought him in. They've built him up through his career, and they haven't thrown him under the bus when things have gone poorly. I think back on Ricciardo, they did their best with him. They held on to him for 2 seasons, even though the writing was on the wall probably at the end of the first season. They still kept him. And even when they said goodbye, it was sort of, they didn't really want to, but they knew they had to bring in Piastri. And so they have this nurture, believe, faith, long-term investment concept at the core of it. And they have this novel quirk of having fairness and equality between the 2 equally matched drivers in their garage. So this season was like a major test between these 2 philosophies of racing. And I, for one, am really thankful that the McLaren philosophy, for all its failings, didn't die and wither on the vine in this most crucial season. They actually managed to pull it off and win the drivers. It wasn't a complete success because they won the drivers and the constructors, but they didn't get P2 in the drivers for reasons we might get into. But I think that looking back on the race, what happened and what it meant, the concept of the McLaren philosophy actually working ultimately, despite maybe a lot of self-sabotage, was such a relief. And the feel-good vibes of last night's outcome were just flowing right through me. And I was so happy for Lando. I was so happy for the team, McLaren. I was happy for Max, that even though he didn't win, he really made a huge statement, especially in the second half of the year. I thought Piastri was magnanimous in defeat. They all won in their different ways. It was kind of beautiful to watch it play out. And one last thing before I'll shut up and let you get in, Gav, is I thought the finishing order was a little bit indicative too. Verstappen winning, he cannot be stopped. Piastri doing everything he can in order to try and stand his ground, but not quite making it. And then Norris, he was imperious throughout many parts of the season. And last night he just did what he needed to do and he got it done. And hats off to him and all who are surrounding him with their success right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a real test of Zach's philosophy, the CEO of McLaren, a real test of Zach's philosophy that can I let my 2 drivers, can I let the best man win? Can I have a team where there's no number 1 like Max and number 2 like Yuki, no number 1 like Max, no number 2 like Lawson, where everyone's not just serving this exceptionally talented driver. And I think that's because Zach recognises, and McLaren as a team recognise, that actually they've got probably one of the most well-balanced teams. They've got Lando and Piastri, like two drivers who, if either of them had won last night, you would have just said, look, fair enough, like absolutely fair enough. Both of them, I don't know if there's a team on the grid with two drivers that evenly matched. And there's a lot of chat leading up to this, like papaya rules are going to be their undoing, letting them both race, not just, months ago just choosing one to get the job done. They could have very, very easily, 3 or 4 months ago, just said, look, Piastri, you're ahead. It's like Lando, next year's your year, but this year we don't want to just win the constructors. We want to win the drivers' championship. Just like snap into gear and we'll give you a go next. Whatever it looks like. But they chose not to. And I think Max was playing a lot. No disrespect to Max here. This is part of the game. They all play this game, the head games. I saw George Russell playing head games with Lando. Max playing head games with Lando. Hamilton even throughout the season playing kind of head games with Lando. It's almost as if they can't really cope, even if they can't win themselves. I've noticed that F1 drivers find it really hard to see someone doing well. Anyway, they all played their head games with him, but Max in particular was pointing out a lot this idea that, this papaya rules thing was playing right into Red Bull's hands, and it was going to be their downfall. And all the gains that Red Bull had made had not just been Red Bull's excellence, but McLaren's failures because they're trying to keep things fair. And in Max's world, it is cutthroat. It's live and die. It's brutal, and he would never dream if that had been, if the call had have ever come for Piastri to give up a place so Lando could win, Piastri would have done it, knowing that he probably couldn't. So he would have done that. Max would not have done that. We all know that. Deep down, we know that Max wouldn't have done that. So it was deeply edifying, as you say. It was deeply edifying to see kind of what all of humanity kind of hopes for, which is like the idea of family, the idea of fairness, the idea of, kind of everyone having a chance, the idea of equality and equality. Like, it was pretty amazing seeing that actually win last night, because Zach and the McLaren team really held to that philosophy all the way to the end. I mean, to get into the race, Piastri started P3, and within a lap he'd overtaken Lando, and no one told him, you can't do that. Like, Lando, needs to, like, Lando's got the best chance. He was allowed just to overtake his teammate and put him in third. And as we all know, Lando had to be minimum third to take this. And they didn't make contact. So, like, it's like the equality and the fairness was there all the way through. So I agree with you. It's a good day for the rebels, or for the, I can't, what is it called in Star Wars? Who are not the Empire?
I think it's the rebels.
The Republic, the Republic, or yeah. Anyway, it's a good day for the Jedis yesterday. I like your analogy, but just to speak a little bit about, and I think Nico Rosberg was amazing, because I think obviously Nico only won one championship, and he had a very similar experience, and you could feel this empathy flowing from Nico towards Lando. And it's not, I don't think, because Nico has Lando as a favourite, it's because Nico was looking at Lando, seeing his younger self, and it was beautiful to watch. And you could feel him just like, come on, Lando, like, this is the moment to face your demons. But to put in perspective what Lando had to go up against, sure, he was 12 points ahead, but he had potentially 2 teams taking him out. Something that I think is still a disgrace in F1, which is that Red Bull have their main team and they have the RB team. So they have 4 drivers who, and we've seen it before, can potentially get orders to really hold up any opposing team. So he had to essentially deal with 4 drivers, one of which we'll get into in a minute, who could potentially put him in the wall, potentially do very dangerous things, potentially, at best, kind of slow him down so he didn't stand a chance of that podium position. Interference. He had a brilliant teammate to go up against, an equally matched teammate in Piastri. Ferrari had an incredibly quick car. Mercedes, even though George finished 5th, had some great race pace. We had the risk of a McLaren strategy fail. They've worn down their plank in and got their drivers disqualified in Vegas, which is a huge, huge error. Then in the next race, they took the wrong strategy. So we had a strategy risk. We had a safety car risk. And then on top of all that, we had a driver like Lando who can make mistakes under pressure, who's highly sensitive, highly emotional driver, not like Max, not like some of these more kind of emotionally, I don't know, you could call it robust or just shut down drivers. So what Lando had to make it through, and I'm so glad that he did, by the way. I'm so glad that he didn't win 2 races before. I'm so glad that Lando won under pressure, because no one will be able to take that away from him. And he will always hold in his kind of toolkit, in his memory, in his skill set, he'll always hold the truth that in the most pressure cooker moment, in the moment where he could have just made one mistake, like he's done many times before, he didn't, and he won. And I think that's also part of the beautiful part of the story, is that actually all his demons just lined up in front of him and he went through them.
Yeah, and all of the things that we've criticized Lando about in the past.
Yeah.
They were right there, as you say, as risks. And some of them were of his own doing. Some of them were the ill wins of McLaren's strategy, like the previous round. Some of them were, even though he had the lead in the championships, he had the advantage going in, Piastri couldn't have won. There was just no way that Lando was not going to finish where he was. So Piastri was out of the running. But Verstappen won the race from pole. It's a bit of a Abu Dhabi special, winning a race from pole here. And so he managed to beat Verstappen by just 2 points in the Drivers' Championship.
2 points.
So the margin for error was so low. And McLaren pit stops this season have been very fast or very slow. So they set records, so 1.8 second pit stop, which is mind-blowing. But they also fumble the ball, and they might leave him in there for 4 or 5 seconds whilst a wheel doesn't quite come on or off. And so the McLaren pit stop thing is a real roll of the dice, and he did a 2-stop strategy. So he took that roll of the dice twice and still managed to come out in front. And whilst there was a danger that Leclerc would close up and he posed some real threat at the start of the race, McLaren, for all their bad choices in the races gone by, they made a decent choice here. They pitted him early into traffic, but he was able to blitz past 4 drivers in 2 laps, whilst Leclerc took longer to get through those same drivers. And we were texting at the time, and he was just carving through like a hot knife through butter. It was unbelievable watching the confidence that exuded from his driving in that moment, which is not something you always see, but when you do see it, it's a thing of beauty. And then he managed Leclerc behind him later on in the race. When Leclerc pitted, he covered him off the next lap. He was in control. He closed up on Piastri towards the end of the race, but he didn't even need to. He didn't need to take that risk of trying to get past his teammate. For Piastri's sake, Piastri's race was run. Finishing P2, he managed to get up from P3 on the grid, but a P2 finish wasn't going to be enough. And Norris was able to seal the deal and get it done. And I guess Lando's been accused of bottling so many times. This season has been his love letter, like in the Valtteri Bottas style, to all this may concern, go, F yourself. This was Lando's season to silence those critics and the inner demons, and to do it in such style in the last the last race of the season to be able to finally wrap it up was brilliant. But it wasn't, I think, the papaya rules necessarily that could have been his undoing. The plankwear thing wasn't a papaya rules thing. It was just a team mistake. The coming in, not choosing not to pit in Qatar was perhaps a papaya rules influence thing, but it was also a strategy blunder. So he really has had to overcome some hurdles to get to the point where he was.
Don't forget, he's the only driver this year who's had a power unit fail. So has lost, but between 18 and 25 points just because his car blew up. Like, had that not happened,
then this Antonelli in Imola, Antonelli had a power unit failure.
Did he?
Lest I remind you. Yeah, but it was a Mercedes power unit. So your point still stands, my friend. Your point still stands.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is what I'm saying. I mean, Antonelli's not wasn't in the championship race, but in terms of those who were,
yes, indeed.
Yeah, I mean that's 25, 18, a second, or I think it was probably at that point it was probably an 18 point second place. So he would have wrapped that up a little bit earlier had that. So he's had some stuff, but I agree with you. The moment that I think there was two moments in this race that really concerned me. The first moment you've talked about, which is when he came out of his pit stop, and he had four cars in front of him. He had Antonelli, who's a very quick driver and very, very good at holding people up. He had Carlos Sainz, who's had a run of great driving recently.
You can say the same about Sainz. He's been very good at defensive driving in his career as well.
That's what I just said. Yeah, so Sainz has had an amazing run. Stroll, maybe a bit easier, and Lawson maybe a bit easier. But within 3 laps, it was either 2 or 3 laps. Within 3 laps, he did some of the most brave, bullish overtaking. So clean, so surgical. And actually, one of the things I've been really frustrated about Lando this year has been that Piastri seems to get the overtakes done really, really quickly. And then Lando comes up on the same cars and spends about 7 or 8 laps getting past them. But not last night. Not last night. So I'm like, what? Like, this is the moment where Lando's meant to like get stuck back there in 5th or 6th and spend the rest of the race, kind of saying, I'm trying, I can't, like, my tire, yeah. But it wasn't. For some reason, something lit up in him, and he overtook 4 cars in about 2.5 laps. Not to mention that he overtook 2 of them. He overtook Stroll and Lawson in one foul swoop. It was magic. But that was moment 1 where I was like, crap. And I think the commentators were like, also like, oh my gosh, he's stuck in the pack. Like, he's in a DRS train. So that was one. But the other one, I think we have to talk about this. This is the Darth Vader. This is the dark side of Red Bull. And this is Yuki Tsunoda, who, by the way, is reserve driver now. That was his last race. But clearly a conversation has been had. Well, for a start, let's put it this way. They put him on the hard tyres for a reason, right? They put him on the hard tyres at the start because they wanted him to run long, and they wanted him as a tool to cause problems for Lando down the line. And it worked. They got out in front of him. Lando had to pit because he started on the mediums. And that driving was so infuriating. I'm sure you remember it clearly from the race, Jason, but he moved, I would say, he basically swerved back and forth across the road in front of Lando, pushed Lando really, really wide. Lando went onto the grass where there's like a real risk of puncture. Lando could have easily lost the back end and put it in the wall. And that felt like team orders from Red Bull. Maybe not necessarily to do exactly that, but that felt like a really dark rain cloud over the race when you've got another team and you've convinced your driver of that team to do some unsportsmanship, dangerous driving just so that you can win the championship. That felt really sketchy. And I think Martin Brundle said, like, I am really, really disappointed. And like, I see Brundle's like kind of almost like the Gandalf of F1. He's so balanced. He's so wise, and when he puts scorn on something, you're like, and you feel it as well. You feel very, you feel very, you feel like, yeah, I feel that too. Like that is really, really, that's so wrong. And that was a moment. That was the second moment in the race that I just thought, come on, like Red Bull, like. Yeah, fair enough. Absolutely, as a team, you can work together and you can slow him down in the corners, hold him up in the corners, which is what they should have done if they wanted to do that. But to drive so dangerously in that moment, I was just like, but again, he made it through. Yuki got a penalty. Lando didn't get the penalty, even though he overtook off the track, because I think the stewards just sat down and went, do you know what? It's so obvious what he's done. We're not going to give this kid a penalty for that. Like, he was taking evasive action. But anyway, they were my two moments in the race where I was really, if you want to add a third, you could say the pace of Leclerc in the first stint was slightly terrifying. But there were some moments, if you were a Lando fan, there were some moments to be very, very afraid this race.
Yeah, 100%. I think with Brundle as well, it's interesting because whilst you say he's a Gandalf, I don't know, maybe my Lord of the Rings isn't quite right, but when Gandalf was younger, he was like a badass. He would go in and fight, tooth and nail. And Brundle's a bit the same. He's an old school racer. He raced in the 80s and the 90s. So if someone who raced in the 80s and the 90s when safety standards were a lot different to they are today is saying that's a bit sketchy, then it carries extra weight. That's what I would say. Because Martin sometimes is like, it's just, fair racing, it's fine. And he might sort of, he might dismiss something. But I agree. I think also with Yuki, I'm not convinced that Red Bull told him, put him in the wall, but they would have told him.
No, not put him in the wall.
And I'm not trying to say that's what you are saying, but I'm not convinced that they would have gone so far as to say something like that. But I think they would have given Yuki the hurry up to sort of slow him down. But the thing is, it was such a stupid move. It didn't work. It was so blatantly obvious that the stewards gave him a penalty for doing it and didn't penalise Norris. And then, unlike what happened with Perez in 2021, when Perez in a similar situation slowed down Lewis Hamilton by about 5 or 6 or even 7 seconds by just driving really slowly through the third sector in the areas where it's really hard to overtake. Tsunoda just
didn't have the sense to do that.
He just weaved on the straight and then almost pushed the guy and Norris into the barrier. It was like, you're not even a Perez level threat here. So Yuki, I doubt we'll ever see him back in a Formula One race. I think we may see him in test sessions or in practice sessions, but I think his time in F1 is done. And this season, he hasn't covered himself in any kind of glory. He's been full of excuses. He's shown himself as being a thoroughly deserving midfield driver who had an overinflated sense of his own capability, and this is his exit, and this may be his legacy, to have been the guy who dangerously failed to try and stop a world champion winning his first world championship. So I think fully shame on Yuki. This was a black mark against his name this race. But I think the other thing about Lando that's so brilliant is he was faster than Piastri, considerably faster than Piastri throughout the whole weekend in the build-up to the race. And then on lap 1, he gets overtaken by his slower teammate on harder tyres, but he doesn't let that sort of cloud his judgment. He just stays the course, runs his race, keeps Leclerc behind. So, in terms of him being an emotional character, and we often contrast him with Piastri, who's more robotic, he exhibited a kind of focused, calm, precision, and aggression today that is something that I think we've been wanting more of from him throughout his career. Yep. So when I think to 2026, I'm hopeful that we see more of that Lando show up, and he doesn't allow Piastri any sort of hope or glimmer of coming in and threatening him for lead sort of status within McLaren. I hope he continues with this kind of aggression, decisive maneuvers, and also clarity of purpose as well. So I think it's just like tick, tick, tick all across the board for Lando. And I'm sure he is somewhere getting, thoroughly drunk in an amazing party somewhere on a yacht in Yas Marina, perhaps. And so he won't be hearing this. But for me, it's like such a feel-good moment for this season to have ended this way. I also love that there wasn't, aside from the anger we've just directed towards Tsunoda, there weren't that many things to be angry about with this race. We had no crashes. We had barely any incidents on track. We didn't have any FIA shenanigans. We didn't have disqualifications an hour or 3 after the race. It was just a clean, basic weekend that happened. We had a great result, and there's nothing to be angry about at the end of the season. And when we think about Abu Dhabi 2021, we're still angry now, 4 years later. So for us to have a brand new world champion, 35th world champion, it's brilliant, and for it to happen in these circumstances is awesome. Last thing I'll say about the champion is next year we're going to have Hamilton, Verstappen, and Norris. 3 world champions driving on the grid. Am I missing someone?
Alonso,
sorry. Thank you. 4. It's really cool to have another world champion on the grid. Yeah, that's really cool. We lost.
It's so cool. It's so cool. It's the perfect way to end a regulation window, as well. Like to have a new champion, because all bets are off next year. We have no idea, and we're going to do a podcast. I think you messaged me today, kind of maybe one looking back over this season as a whole, and perhaps a few actually as things come out, looking forward to understanding what these cars, how different they're going to be and there's so many ways that these cars next year are going to be different. But we have no idea where the chips are going to fall. Is Alonso going to get another world championship? It's totally possible with the best car designer in the world over at Aston Martin.
Did you hear what Alonso said after the race? He said that...
he said, I think he's been... I think he touched the car. He touched the car and it's good. Or something, was it something like that?
Yeah, some of his magic dust sort of stayed on the car. Yeah. That's why it
magic
dust.
That's why it was good. So we've got, and look, Leclerc, George Russell, they're not old, they're young, they're still hungry. We've got some, I would say like Leclerc, Russell and Piastri will all be vying for it alongside Lando and Max. We've got Lewis. I mean, come on, we've got Lewis, the greatest of all time. Like, maybe Ferrari will give him a good car. There's so much to be excited about next year. We've got Hadjar. For goodness sake, Hadjar's going to Red Bull. Will it be the poison chalice that it's been for the last 5 drivers in a row who've had to sit next to Max? Or is this... I think he's incredible. I think Hadjar's incredible.
Yes.
Yeah, and Nico thinks yes as well. Nico Rosberg said, don't do it, Isaac. But someone's got to break the chain. And last night, Lando broke a chain. He broke a chain of Lewis Hamilton winning. He broke, forever, what felt like forever. He broke 4 years of Max winning. Like, someone has got to be brave enough to break the chain. So I'm backing Hadjar to be the guy who breaks that pattern. But absolutely possible that he's just another one who gets flicked by the wayside. But yeah, man, so much to be excited about next year. And such a beautiful night last night. Huge humility from Lando, I thought. Was like gushing about Piastri, just honoring Piastri and Max in equal measure, just saying like Max is the best driver. Like, he's just the greatest driver. We'll never get a generational talent like that. Just to win, and then just to begin to pour out praise on your opponents. And Piastri just saying like, I want to go out and party with Piastri, but like, I know he'll be processing a lot. Like, he's Piastri was leading the championship for so long. I know he'll be processing a lot. And I think he even said, I know one day I'll be the one processing that and Piastri will be the one standing there with the world. It's just like so cool to see. And I think just to wrap up your initial thought, Jason, that is the cult to produce a driver like that. Lando's a really good guy, but he's also been marinated in the culture of McLaren, and that seems to be the culture that they're saying is like, this is family, this is fair, we honor those around us, we honor those who've gone before us, and I'd love to see more of that in F1. Sure, be ruthless, sure, be brutal, sure, you absolutely have to win no matter what, but there's a way to do that differently, and McLaren have shown it this year.
Well said. And they've had history of it blowing up in their face before when they've had evenly matched drivers going up against one another. And I think this is probably one of the hallmarks, perhaps, of the Zak Brown and I'd say more Zak Brown than Andrea Stella. The Zak Brown era of McLaren compared to the Ron Dennis era of the 80s and 90s. I think it's a different time now, and we're living in a different world, and we've got different values. But to see that sort of unfold, and it was so tenuous. It could have failed at many times throughout the season. Think back to Canada, when Norris crashed into the back of Piastri. Think back to both Hungary and the Red Bull Ring, when Piastri nearly crashed into the back of Norris in both occasions. They've had moments where they could have, in good faith and with all the best intentions, created the conditions where they were guaranteed to explode. But they didn't, and they stayed true to their philosophy. And last night, they reaped the rewards.
Yeah. Don't you think Zach is kind of like barbecue guy? Have you ever heard the barbecue guy analogy?
What's that?
So it's like a public speaking analogy. So it's like when you're public speaking, just pretend that you're at a barbecue. All your best mates are around. You've got a beer in your hand. You've got the spatula flipping the sausages on the other hand, and you're telling a brilliant story. That's barbecue man public speaking. And it's basically when you're just like, so anyway, you'll never guess what happened last week. So it's that kind of vibe. And Zach just has barbecue, man. He's like a little kid who's just like so stoked. Like just his joy. It's not professional. It's just raw joy, raw heart, raw belief. And it's so refreshing on the pit wall and on the grid to see like the bear hug kind of Zak Brown, just like he can't help himself. And again, like when you're like that, you can feel very foolish if it doesn't work out. You can be like the guy with the big gut who's just like a bit of a jolly, like, we're just gonna like let everyone race. It's papaya, it's like, if the egg on his face had this not worked out, would have just been like, well, it doesn't work, Zach.
Dude, we've got 74 years of dominant driver wins, second driver backs up. This is the sport that you're in. Do you not see that?
Yeah.
Have you missed the memo? This is how it works around here, mate. Yeah, unbelievable.
And barbecue guy was just like, nah, man, let my children race.
These are two awesome guys. They're so good.
Yeah, they're so awesome. Like, we're not going to preference one over the other. Let the boys race.
We'd be crazy too. Did you see in first practice that Oscar Piastri was sitting in Zak Brown's seat? Did you see that on the coverage?
No.
In first practice, because they were doing their, they've got mandatory number of sessions. They need to have rookie drivers in. And so we talked about this one of the previous podcasts. They would have decided months ago that Oscar Piastri would sit out first practice in Abu Dhabi and they'd put someone else in. They put Pato O'Ward in. And so Oscar Piastri was sitting watching on the pit wall. And it just happened to be the same weekend where Sky Sports had Zak Brown and Laura Mekis as their sort of team principal experts who would come and be a part of the broadcast for small snippets of time. And so there was one time where Zak Brown was being interviewed as part of the broadcast, but Oscar Piastri was actually sat where Zach Brown would normally be
in
sitting,
his chair
in his
on the
sitting.
pit wall.
And so imagine I am here, I'm Zach Brown, I'm where Zach Brown should be, and that bookcase over there is where Zach Brown actually is, because Oscar Piastri is occupying the Zach Brown space, and there's Zach Brown over here in the background going, "Oh yeah, no, we just need to see how things are going." I mean, it's very wholesome. You know, it's very sort of, you kind of feel the vibes of what they're trying to create. And I'm really glad that it didn't end up blowing up in their face, because, I mean, F1 should be a place of innovation, and team culture is a domain of innovation. It's not just about how fast your engines go and how quickly you turn the laps and how quickly your pit stops go. It's also about how you come up with ideas and how you nurture one another and how you create sort of incentives for motivation and to get both sides of the garage pulling as hard as they can to push the whole thing forward, not just the one.
How you process failure, how you process things like the plank wear in Vegas, how you process the strategy fail in Qatar, like how somehow they've kept this team bound together, even in huge failure, even when Lando does a stupid attempt at an overtake on Piastri, kind of 10 races ago, ends up in the wall, how they get those two drivers back in the room, remembering that they're part of a team. That is impressive to me. Like, that is impressive that, think about it, like both Lando and Piastri equally, in my mind, deserve to win this year. If either of them had won, it would have been, like I said earlier, it would have been absolutely fair. They're incredible drivers. They're incredibly well matched. How do you hold that together? That raw ambition. I don't know. Like that. Part of it is I think those two boys are well raised. Piastri and Lando. Come from clearly come from a place where they understand what it is to be ferocious racing car drivers, but they've got a dignity about them. But there's also this overarching thing where the team was able to hold that so well in the failures and the clashes. Oscar diving in on Lando, locking up, nearly taking Lando out. Like I said, Lando running nearly running into the back of Piastri. Like, they've held failure really, really well. And often we think about, encouraging winning, but, that's the other side of the coin. Like, a winning team in F1 has to be able to...
This will be a great test of that, don't you think? Because whilst Lando's won, Piastri's failed. And not only failed, he failed to finish second, despite the dominance of this season. So I think this next 3-6 months period will be a fantastic test of that exact thing that you've just described, their team culture and ability to hold failure and to work through it. And I think you can contrast that dramatically, right, with Ferrari, a team that does not seem to even know how to spell failure, let alone understand,
acknowledge
process it and work through it. They have...
Did you hear the radio message from Hamilton? Like, this is the final race of the season, and he speaks to his engineer. This is, like, we talked about this a few podcasts ago, how messed up it is to go from Mercedes with Bono, with your whole support crew there, to alone to Ferrari, who are just, I think, just like a terrible, I shouldn't say that not terrible, but just like a chaotic team. So Hamilton is kind of, the race is over and he's like, thanks so much for this year. I'm going to keep doing my best for you guys. I'm going to keep pushing, like, just trying, even though he's had the worst year, probably the worst year of his career. He's saying to his engineer, I'm going to keep pushing for you guys. Thank you so much. And the radio's just silent. And he's like, did you guys receive that message? Did you hear that?
You know what they did?
Do you know what his engineer...
You know what they did?
Do you know what his engineer...
They went for that tea break he told them to go for all those races ago.
Yeah.
What did they say?
They said, oh yeah, we heard it. We were just talking.
Really?
Yeah, thanks for the... yeah, thanks for this year. And that was it. And it was just like, it crystallized for me in this moment what Lewis lost in going to, which is that, Bonner, just like his engineer of, I don't know how many years, you could probably tell me how many years, like a decade probably, like this incredible relationship, the language of it's hammer time, Lewis, don't give up, Lewis, to this engineer now at Ferrari where he's just like, with everything inside him, even though he probably doesn't want to say it, saying like, I'm going to keep working hard, thanks guys. And the guy's just like, oh yeah, we heard you, we were just talking amongst ourselves. Can you imagine? Like, that is just, I was livid. I was just like, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but that is not how you talk to Lewis Hamilton. Like, you at least get back to him at the end of the season on that radio message. And I think it just,
Don't
like
leave
I
him
said,
hanging.
it crystallized. Well, it just crystallized, like, there's a missing piece of warmth. There's a missing piece of respect. There's a missing piece of camaraderie. There's some big missing pieces. And I just think, like, if I was Lewis, I'd be like, right, I want a different engineer. Like, I want to choose my engineer for next year. Like, give that guy to Leclerc, like whatever. Like, I don't know if he can say that. I'm just imagining, but like, Lewis needs someone in the Ferrari camp who he can vibe with, man, who can say hammer time, who can like pick him up. Like, he needs it more than ever. That's my feeling on that. I was really, that made me feel a bit sad actually hearing that. Anyway, go and have a listen to it. It's I'm sure it will break your heart too as a Hamilton lover of many years.
Many years. The worst part about it is that Hamilton had a pretty decent race as well. He did. He started in what, P16, P17,
16,
and he managed
16,
to get all the way up to 8th, overtake after overtake. It was actually, I mean, if you were, I don't know if you were, but if you were able to pull yourself away from stressing about Norris's outcome, there was some fun stuff happening elsewhere in the race.
Yeah, what else did you see that was fun?
Hulkenberg was overtaking like it was nothing, and so was Hamilton, and they both had the same strategy. They started on the soft, switched to the hard, and ended the race on the medium. So they did 2 stops,
mediums, yeah.
And they both gained. They were massive gainers, and so there was all this overtaking happening in the background. And the other one that blew me away was Stroll. Stroll did something like 5 or 6 overtakes on track throughout that race, and he only just finished 10th because he got some penalty on the last lap of the race, battling with Behrman. But Stroll came alive. I mean, it's not what I had on my bingo card for this weekend. Stroll waking up and actually turning up to a race and treating it seriously and actually trying to win. So that was really cool. But some of these drivers, Stroll started 15th, ended 10. Hamilton started 16th, ended 8th, and Hulkenberg started 18th and finished 9th. So the three of them had
Hulkenberg, isn't it?
Had like a brilliant end of the season race. And I think from Sauber's perspective, that's kind of a nice little footnote on the Sauber F1 journey as they become Audi next year. So that was kind of like a nice little coda to put on that. I've got a question for you, Gav. You may not have the answer. Where did we end up in the constructors' shenanigans? What was the sort of outcome of that? Do you want me to banter some more while you look up the answers?
I know the answers. Oh. We've got Mercedes. We've got Mercedes P2. We've got Red Bull P3. And Ferrari P4. What a fall from grace for Ferrari. But the biggest win, do you know what? When I look at the constructors, like McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, any of those, apart from McLaren, could have swapped places in my mind. Williams, man. Come on, Williams.
And they were absent this round. They were completely absent. You did not see them at all. Sainz and Albon barely showed up. Williams. But P5, they locked it in last round, right? They got it done. They got it done one round early. Norris could learn a little bit about that. Great result for them. Is that their best result in like 10 years plus?
Oh, at least 10 years, I would say. Yeah, unbelievable. And just love that team. Just so stoked to see we talked about it last time, like almost like Sainz going on the opposite journey
Hmm.
of Lewis. This idea of like it's hard to go to a new team. It's hard to go from a better team to a lesser team. You must feel like you're driving a bit of a tractor that's like a bit 2D rather than 3D. But Sainz's journey
I like that
has
analogy.
been, it's just been sick, man. Sainz was always a good driver.
Yeah.
Sainz
Yeah.
probably would have done better than Lewis this year in Ferrari.
Yeah.
Probably because of what we've talked about. There's like in the culture, know the team, know the machinery. Can
Language.
just, yeah,
Language as well. I fully agree. But I'm glad that he made the move. And did you see he made a comment? Someone was asking him about the Ferrari situation. I think it was Ted Kravis, bless him. He was asking Science about it. And Science said, you know that frog with the T? You know the meme with the frog with the T? That's me right
Oh yeah,
now.
yeah. And Ted Kravitz is like, I don't know that
What? What
meme.
is that? What is that?
Yeah,
Yeah, bless
yeah.
him. I love Ted. Ted's great. Yeah, I mean, science. I remember in 2023 or 22 when Ricardo moved from Renault to McLaren and Sainz moved from McLaren to Ferrari. And they both had that early season sort of, it's hard to get into a new team kind of vibe. It's really challenging. But then Sainz just did it. He got it done, and Ricardo didn't.
Got it
He
done.
didn't, and that made me really sad. But did you see one more thing on this switch? Did you see when Sainz left McLaren and went to Ferrari? McLaren made this beautiful video farewelling Carlos Sainz. Have you seen it?
No.
It's this lovely 1 minute long video where,
Gosh, could they be any more wholesome as a
oh my
team?
god, it's amazing. It's just basically them talking heads, a bunch of different people in the McLaren team saying, "We love Carlos Sainz. We wish him well. Please be good to him. Look after this guy who's been a part of our journey and who's now going off to be a part of your journey. Treat
Yeah.
him well." It's very beautiful, moving sentiment. And so that sentiment sort of has lingered on through the years. There you go.
I love it.
Where to from
Well, I
here?
don't know if you know. Have you noticed that I've got my I'm wearing my Lando helmet.
Hey, is that what it is? Yeah, nice.
Yeah, man. This is what I wore
Sick.
when we first went to our first GP together down in
Good
Melbourne
times.
at the beginning of this year,
Good
and
times.
decided to do a podcast. Well, look. Anything more from you on this race? Any kind of standout moments before we kind of wrap this one up?
I think it was the most fitting end to a season that we've had in years, possibly since before I even started watching F1, because I don't think we've had anything like this in the last 5 years, including Abu
No.
Dhabi 2021. We had
Yeah.
years of we had years of Hamilton domination. I guess the last time we had something like this was in 2016 when Nico Rosberg became world champion. So people look back on that year as being an epic year with two very competitive and evenly matched teammates who actually tore strips off each other and ended up falling out and not being friends. Not just that season, but that was their story, and it took them years to sort of mend that, and to some degree it's still not there.
It's still not mended. Yeah.
So to see McLaren do it the McLaren way, where they can shake hands at the end of it, congratulate each other, dust each other off, dust themselves off, and go again next year, I think is just such a wholesome, fitting papaya way for this season to conclude. And I, for one, am all for it.
I'll end on this. Just the interview with Lando's mum at the end. Like, for a start, his parents just seems like his mum's Belgian, his dad's from Bristol or Bath, I think, UK based. But she's such a cool kind of character, like really quirky, like the opposite of F1 glamour. She's just like imagine she's like throwing pottery in a studio and like doing oil painting. She's that kind of arty, cool mum that you just like probably let you smoke weed when you're like 14 if you just go and do it in the garden. She's that kind of mum. Anyway, but she's like, you can tell she's got, I mean, she wears a massive heart around her neck. Like, she's all about the love. But there was just this moment when she was being interviewed that really struck me. And, the interviewers are just like, oh, like, how does it feel? Like, how's it been? Like, seeing Lando come from this, like, 5-year-old in a go-kart through to, world champion. And she kind of, like, took this moment and she said something along the lines of, like, it's been really hard. Like, it's been really hard. Like, he fell in love with it, and once he started, he just disappeared. Like, he just traveled the workload. It was almost like a mother lamenting what an obsession with a sport and a success in a sport actually takes away from you as a parent. She was basically saying, I didn't see my son much through his teens and early 20s. And I just thought that was like, that is why Lando on the radio is like, thank you, Mum, thank you, Dad, I love you. Like, it's because, like, there's been sacrifices, not just for Lando, not just for McLaren, but for Lando's family. This is like, and for Max, and for Lewis, and for Nico, and like, there's real sacrifice in becoming a great, and it's really stuck with me. Like, you don't get to be world champion without giving up a huge amount of normal life, of time with family. Like, it costs a lot, which is why I think it's even sweeter when you get there. I think Lando said something like, classic self-depreciating kind of comment. I think he stood there in front of thousands of people and just said, I'm so glad I didn't embarrass everyone tonight by not winning. It's just like, Lando, if you had have come second, mate, no one would have been embarrassed. Like, for goodness sake. But like, there's a burden that these athletes carry to all those who have poured into them financially, emotionally, through a mother not seeing her son. Like, there's a lot they're carrying. Like, the expectation isn't just their expectation themselves. They're carrying this world of expectation that we as viewers don't see. So that was my kind of closing thought on what it means to be champion and why it's bigger than just the individual. Sport is crazy. Being the world champion is crazy. Well, he's got it now. He can go to bed. He can party, like you say, on a boat somewhere. He can go to bed. If he never wins another one again, no one can ever take the one he won last night. No one can take it.
No one can take it. He's forever a world champion. And for some, like Nico Rosberg, they decide that it's too much.
That's it.
It takes too much to do this. They're not willing to go again. And for others, and Rosberg and Norris, they took a similarly long journey to get to F1 championship. It took them many seasons to get there. But for Norris, it seems like for him, the sacrifice was worth it. And he's ready and willing to go again next year. And I think we've got a pretty exciting season coming up just around the corner.
We'll definitely do a podcast. We'll be podcasting through this next kind of 2.5 months, guys. So don't go anywhere. We'll be talking. We'll be reflecting on the year that's gone in a bit more detail. I know Jase really wants to get into that. We'll be reflecting on the season to come. There's so much to be excited about with the new set of regulations, and so much to talk about, and for us to banter about. So we'll see you very soon. Thanks for listening to Fresh Rubber.